Let's take you to our reporter Nonjabulo Mntungwa-Makamu, who's monitoring developments for us in KwaZulu-Natal. So, Nonjabulo, we're seeing inclement weather wreaking havoc in most parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Talk us through what's happening where you are stationed right now.
Well, yes, a very good morning to you. We're actually coming you from the area of Inanda. This is on the north part of the eThekwini Municipality. And of course, we have been told that this is another area that is said to have been devastated by the recent rains that we have seen in the past 3 days here in the city of eThekwini. And of course, yesterday we did visit a number of communities that were devastated. One of the incidents that we covered yesterday is there on Quarry Road, informal settlements. Some of the communities that they're speaking about the challenges that they are faced with, and having been told that they need to move on a higher ground. They actually built their structures along a stream, which the levels kept on rising. We were also told that in that area, one person was said to be missing, a gentleman who is about 42 years of age, and the community had said that they've been trying to get assistance from the authorities for them to conduct a proper search of that gentleman, but it seemed as if it was falling on deaf ears. So at that time when we were there, the community was even thinking of conducting their own search. We also did visit as well areas on the upper highway of eThekwini on the west Pine Town, where we also remember on Thursday where there was that incident of that 54-year-old woman who got washed away while trying to cross a low-lying bridge. And of course, on Friday morning, they were able to basically get her remains from one of the rivers there in Umbilo River, a river that is lying very closely to residential areas there in Pine Town. We also visited other areas as well, the malls that were affected, by the recent rains. But just to bring in the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, who's also here in Inanda, Ward 54, just to speak and to assess the extent of damage here, and also, to just speak to some of the residents that are said to be affected. Premier, thank you so much for joining us. Premier, we understand that there's about 7 family members that have been affected here in this area of Inanda. Just tell us about the devastation, especially here in Inanda.
Well, I'm told there are 9. Well, I'm waiting for them because they're on the way with the ward councillor. Ours is to assess the extent of the damage and also offer immediate support. I think the devastation not only to Inanda and the other areas of eThekwini, as I'm with His Worship the Mayor of eThekwini, who's doing good work on the ground with his team, because they've been cleaning the roads, they've been ensuring that mobility is not affected, the access to strategic economic zones is not affected. And I was quite impressed by the reflection by one of the businessmen saying in Pinetown, if it were not for the working stormwater drainage system, their businesses were going to be washed away due to the heavy rains. And we are hopeful that when we engage those who are affected here in Inanda, because I've heard that they lost everything, and unfortunately they chose to be with their neighbors, according to the information which I've heard, but we'll engage them. Apart from the fact that we have brought some support to them, but we'll also engage them to establish whether they decide to continue staying with their neighbors, and then we find ways of expediting the support in terms of them ensuring that they're being assured that they get shelter.
No, thank you so much. That is the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Ntuli. But let me just rope in the Mayor of eThekwini. Mayor, thank you so much. I know that the eThekwini Municipality is said to be the most devastated in terms of the recent rains that we saw here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Just give us a picture, Mayor, in terms how bad is the damage and in terms of the death toll.
Well, thank you very much, and let me greet the Premier as well as the MEC for Arts, Culture and Sports. and the public at large. Indeed, we should thank you, Premier, for support, and that there's been a declaration of disaster. It's going to help us a great deal, because it will then release resources and to then deal with infrastructure damage, and also to try and recycle people who have been affected in the city. Indeed, in February we had 2 floods that claimed the first flood claimed 6 lives, and the next flood claimed 5 floods. They happened within a space of about a week from each other. They were just a week apart. And then in March we also had 2 floods. I also had this recent flood, and again we lost some lives, and there was damage to people's houses. So it's indeed a concern to all of us, and we are told that we are not out of the wood yet, because we're still yet to get rains in April as well as in May. We hope that we will not face the same devastation that we have seen in the last since the beginning of this year.
Mayor, if you can just tell us some of the difficulties that the disaster management teams that are out in various areas within your city that they are probably faced with. We know that yesterday there was a woman who was is said to have been washed away in Molweni. We heard that her remains have been recovered. We also did visit the area of Quarry Road informal settlement that we were told that the community is trying to conduct the search themselves. If you can just tell us if you are aware of this, and also some of the challenges that your teams are experiencing.
Well, I haven't heard about the Quarry Road that is still doing a search. The Molweni incident, I got information from the local councillor who said the lady who went missing was washed away by floods. Was somewhere down, people could see where she was, and we since activated our search and rescue team that went there and recovered the body. We also had an incident of a lady who was in her car that got washed away, and she was found again drowned. So those are the 2 what you call deaths that were fatalities that were reported in the last incidents. But of course, over and above that are people who were affected, because a number of houses were demolished, and we are told that the damage, like the Premier said it earlier, the cost of the damage in the city just because of these last few floods is above R1 billion. We really hope that the release of the new funds will help us so that we can recover, restore our infrastructure, so that when floods happen again, we don't get more impact, because when rain happens, even before the water level drops, and you know that our people are in for more mudslides. So we hope that we're not going to have this situation again, so that we can stabilize, people can regroup. Even those who are in the places of shelter are relocated to permanent places. I know it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take a bit of time, but our government, with the support of the province, will eventually overcome the situation.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Well, that is the Mayor of eThekwini, Mr. Cyril Xaba. And there you also heard the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Ntuli. They are also accompanied by the MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture, Mr. Mntomohle, and they are going to be visiting various other areas. I believe that from here they are going to be visiting the area of Lamontville, where some of the community members are said to also have been devastated by the recent rains. But for now, it's back to you in studio.
That's our very own Nonjabulo Mntungwa-Makamu. They're watching developments for us on that story, and of course do stay safe out there.